So what I wish happened is that changed. I'll get rid of it for right now. I wish that changed every time I clicked on a note. I wish clicking the note actually changed the URL. That's within our power. We can do that. Doesn't sound so hard. So where are these things that I'm clicking? What component are they in? What component are they in? So note list. In the wrong window here. Note list.js. Here we go. We map over our notes array. For each one, we render the note component. So inside the note component, we have an li with all that stuff in it. So the onClick handler is right here on the li. And what it does is set current note. I think long term, maybe we don't need current note. I'm not going to get rid of it just yet. But if the ID of the note is in the URL, and that URL is being passed down in the props to note form, it seems like you could find the current note just based on the ID, and we wouldn't actually need to manage it in the state of another component. So thinking about it that way, that maybe long term we don't need to worry about current note. How could we change this if we wanted clicking one of these to change the URL to have the ID in it? What could we do differently here? I want clicking on one of those things to change the URL so that it has the ID of the current node. The current node is in here as this note prop. What can we do? So this is the note, right? So it looks like note does not have history, location, and match for what it's worth. Kind of a bummer. What about main? Main doesn't even have history, location, and match, even though we got there with React Router. Why not? Back up an app. Because we did it inside a render function, right? And those props get passed in here. We didn't pass them on. So if I wanted to do that here, excuse me, I could take those nav props here, pass them on to main. I could do the same thing to sign in. Nav props. Sign in. Nav props. So now if I look at main, main has history, location, and match, which seems appropriate. But I still don't have them way down in note. So what can I do? If I want clicking on one of these to change the URL so that it has the ID in it. How about a link? How do you change the URL when you click on something? Just make that something a link. Seems easy enough. Note link or regular link or nav link? What's the difference? It adds an active class, right? It might be nice if when we click on one of these and it puts that one in the note in the form over here, if it then kept this one highlighted so we know which note we're editing. That might be beneficial. So I say navlink. Import navlink from React Router DOM. So let's just wrap the li in a navlink. Navlink to what? What's a navlink to? What's the new URL? /note / the ID, right? So how would I do that? How about /notes slash. So here's the note, right? We have note.title, note.body, note.id. Just link to slash notes slash note ID. Seem all right? And I say long term, we don't even need this on click handler anymore. We don't need to set current note if we're changing the URL. Note form can get the ID out of the URL. Now we're going to break it when we take this out, but long term, it'll be better. So here's what I've got now. Each LI is inside a nav link that links to slash notes slash the ID of the current node. So I took set current node out of there, so I'm going to take set current note out of the props list up here. And inside note list, I'm going to take set current node out of the prop list. So I'm not using it in here anymore either, so I can take it out, which means all the way back up in main, when I render note list, I no longer need to pass in set current note. So note list just got a bit simpler. Let's see what happens. So I'm on slash notes. I click this one, and I'm on slash notes slash something else. Click this one, and I'm on slash notes slash something else. URL changes every time I click a new note. Now, they're not staying a different color, are they? We wanted them to. So let's inspect this. So here's the A. Here's the A. I do see class equals active on this one. Click this one, and class active goes off of this one and goes onto this one. So class active is there. We just don't have any CSS for it. So let's look at that. Which CSS file would that even be? I don't think we made a note.css. No, but we made a note list.css. So basically, when it's active, I want it to look like it does when it's hovered. I want the background color to change to this blue. I want the color to change to white. Text decoration, none. I don't want it to be underlined because links by default kind of underline everything. So let's see what we can do here. So this background color, I want this to be applied if it's an LI with a class with the pseudo class of hover. I also want that to happen if to the LI, whether it's hovered or not, if it's inside an A with a class of active. I'm going to paste this CSS in Slack here when I'm done with it. So an LI that's inside an A with a class of active, that's inside a UL with an ID of notes, that's inside a div or any element with a class of note list. Okay, now that one is blue, but we see the text is ugly. It needs to be white. So this rule down here, in addition to applying to those things, should probably apply to the same thing, except it's not hovered, it's active. So let's try, let me just copy these two, put them back here. And instead of LI hover, that's just an LI without hover, but inside an A with a class of active. That's better. There's still this little, do you see that little border that keeps going away? So that's no good. Color, text decoration. Here's border color transparent. Maybe that rule would be useful up there. But that doesn't actually apply to the note, does it? Would that work? Let's try doing this same thing, except instead of LI hover, It's any li where it's inside an A with a class of active. Let's see how that looks. There you go. Beautiful. Now it tells us which one is active. So add NavLinks to the sidebar. Well, it's not the sidebar, is it? Nah, it's the note list. Whoops. So we're still not changing the form, but we are updating the URL and we're updating the active class so that it looks like, so we can tell which one is selected.